Howie, and I think we have. I guess we can officially say we have a controversial guest on board, Troy,
It
and
seems like it.
he might. I mean, the last name might look a little familiar, but we're looking at or we're listening, depending on what you're doing here with the podcast. But we're listening to Mark White, author of Shifting Realities. Hey, Mark.
What's going on?
A lot, a lot. Let's just say that.
Everything that happened before this announcement was not true.
That's right. Our legal team is actually on it as we speak, so don't worry about that. Um, but
You you guys talk like you know each other.
yeah, right. Yeah, we kind of do. Sometimes we think we are, and sometimes we think we're not. But this is actually my brother, Mark. So
Oh,
nice to
good.
meet you, Mark.
You probably have less likelihood of knowing me than the average person out there that we're related.
Yeah, and we joke, but we come from a very interesting background,
Say,
and I believe that's kind of where your book came about.
yeah.
So give us a background as far as you decided to be an author. And I'll be honest with you, Mark. The last thing I expected to see in your title was author. Now I expected inmate. I expected,
I'm 100% accurate.
yeah.
100%
Um,
accurate.
but I did not expect author. And I will say this: congratulations, and I am real proud of you for doing this book. So really, good
Thank
job.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
give us a background. What is this book about?
So this book is a compilation of a fucked up background history and childhood trauma. It's a combination of fact, fiction, and night terrors, which the night terrors are always the same thing. I wake up, there's three shadow people standing like at the foot of my bed,
Hmm.
and a weird compilation of near death experiences that have happened to me. Some of it's real, some of it's exaggerated, but ultimately the story for people that know portions of it is real.
Hmm.
I've been in a lot of car accidents, I've been in a lot of near death accidents that I should have died in and would believe that I did die in those moments if obviously I weren't here.
Hmm.
But some of it made me really question reality where the prime example in the book, I drowned, I went unconscious. A friend of mine and myself at 15 years old, we decided to swim across the Swati, which is a river where we grew up by the Lickdale campground.
Hmm. In Pennsylvania, Lebanon County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we went back a long trail, went through like private property, and we decided we were going to swim across this after 3 days of rain.
Hmm.
When I was a terrible swimmer, like that was a terrible idea, not the dumbest idea, but it's in the top 10. And I got halfway across, and the weird part was I could swim above water, below water, but if I tried to combine the two, like combine the two, I couldn't do it. And I went under and I couldn't get up. He tried to rescue me and I went unconscious. Like there was a weird period where I knew I died and I accepted death. I remember taking in the water, breathing it in, and just watching life leave my body. It's a
Okay.
weird fucked up experience.
Yeah.
And but I felt a peacefulness that, like, I've heard a lot of people explain, but like when you really feel like death is there and you're okay with it, like you don't really want to die, but like you're in a better place moving forward. Like it's like, okay, I see it and I see the death coming, but it was really surreal.
Yeah.
And in a snap of a finger, I woke up on shore, holding on, holding on to Scott, and him pushing me off, like, "Let me alone." He was pissed off, like, "Fucking let me alone." I was like, "I'm never letting go."
So what? How old are you at this time?
15.
And what are your thoughts on the afterlife at that point in your on the afterlife at your point in your life? I mean, did you guys grow up in an organized religion or anything, or
No, no, no. I wasn't allowed to
no?
have religion. Like that's the irony. Like so, my very first friend, Chris Spittler, he died at 18 years old. Like he was family to me. Like
Hmm.
we had our periods apart where we didn't hang out, but like whenever we got together, it was always our weird group. Like we got together, we played basketball, we did whatever, and it didn't matter what was going on in the real world. All of a sudden, we were all back to where we were, and like when he died, like that was it was a weird moment, but he was the first person who introduced me to religion, and
Hmm.
i I wanted to go to church because he asked me to go, and I didn't know what it meant, like because we didn't have anything religion, we weren't even allowed
Yeah.
to talk about it,
I
and
think
I
the
asked
only
about it.
closest religion we had, honestly, was our aunt, Jehovah's Witness religion.
But she's in the book, by the way. She is the Aunt Maggie.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but like I asked if I could go to church with Chris, and your mom said to me, the only thing you need to know about religion is the book of Revelations. And that's a fucked up thing to say.
Mm.
Like that is a real fucked up thing to say for anybody who knows religion now. It's
Hmm.
like that is the most horrific book to ever introduce to a child with no context. I was like, okay, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Surely she's got my best interest. Turns out not accurate.
Wow.
So
Wow. You even got introduced to religion. I never did.
Oh
That's
yeah, I
not
got
fair.
introduced to it to scare the
well, yeah,
fuck
but
out of me so I wouldn't
yeah, but
go.
it wasn't because of his parents. It was because of his friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. True.
So what? Where? So again, though, this at 15 years old, this is before you're introduced to religion. So what are your
Well,
thoughts like
I
when
was
you're
introduced
thinking?
a little early. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you were okay. So at this point, are you thinking in your mind like you're going to heaven? Is that what you're thinking?
No, no, no.
No. What are you thinking?
No, at that point, um, I I didn't. There was zero thought about where I was going, but I knew I wasn't scared.
Hmm.
Like whatever was happening, and maybe it was a rush of endorphins, maybe it was whatever, but it was it was so surreal watching, like if you've ever been underwater and you see how green it is
Mm.
in like a river or whatever the case is, it was so cool to look around and see the water rushing. Like I remember, like I'll never. It's something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. I remember the water passing through, rocks turning over. I remember everything and looking up and seeing like the top of the water. Like I knew that I wasn't scared. I didn't know that I died. I didn't know if I died. Like obviously I didn't, but like I knew in that moment that I wasn't scared.
Yeah. At that point, you were accepting whatever happens.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was like then I didn't know it was death. I just knew like, and it's weird. Like truthfully, like at that point I wanted to go back and actually see.
Hmm.
This is super super weird, but I wanted to see if I could breathe underwater, like at that age, because I knew physically breathe underwater, but I knew I took a deep breath, water filled my lung. I felt the water going down my lungs, and it engulfed my lungs. But like it didn't hurt. It didn't scare me. It didn't panic. Like the panic was like if you hold your breath right now, like I can explain to you what the panic is. Hold your breath until you can't. That was the
Hmm.
panic.
Yeah.
And the difference is being underwater and then taking that breath and feeling your lungs fill with water.
Hmm.
And in that moment, I was I believe I was dead at that point. Was I? I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Well,
But
I'm thinking too, you at age 15, at the point where you were near a death experience, think about your options. Think about your options when you were alive at the age of 15 compared to possibly dying. Did you really feel like you had much to lose at that point?
So weirdly enough, I did. Not because of my family, because in that moment, I had Scott's family and I had Ralph's mom who loved me.
Gotcha,
Like,
gotcha.
so I was more afraid of losing them because they took me in, and
Hmm.
you know what that's like.
Oh yeah.
Like your friends, like I was afraid. I was so terrified that his family would think I was a bad person because at some point Scott's mom, like when I was a little kid, and he'll laugh. Like his mom, when we were, I think in first grade, called me a foul mouthed snob. And at that time, I didn't even know what that meant
Hmm.
because, like, I was walking in the door and I said something that was so benign, and she called me foul mouth. Like now, holy shit! Like if she heard me now, she'd be like, "That's that." Like, we didn't even scratch the surface of what his
Yeah.
mouth can do. Um, but like him and I were joking around like at that point. She's like, "You're a foul mouthed snob," because I didn't open the door for her. So more than anything, I was definitely afraid that she would think I was a bad person.
Hmm.
So I my home life was horrible, but like that portion of my life, like all I wanted to do was please them and make them
Right.
see that I wasn't the people that they believed that my family believed I was.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
I don't remember how we got down to the drowning story here. What did you ask him that took us down that road, Howie?
Oh, we were just talking about the book, and and it just led into that.
Okay,
But
I
I'm
was just
thinking too.
wondering because of the shadowy figures. Like,
Yeah, and that's what I was
is that
going to get at. So you're
yeah?
talking about those three shadowy figures at the end of your bed. Now, do you feel like you have an idea of who those figures are?
So the only person, and we've had this conversation, the only person that we ever knew that wore a fedora was Uncle Jed.
Yeah. Who's still around, by the way?
No,
Yeah,
who would know?
possibly.
I never like I couldn't identify who they were, what they were. I
Hmm.
assume they're from some fucked up childhood trauma because there's memories that I have that like of weird parties where like people running out, like he had a knife, he had a gun, like
Hmm.
and we would hear stories of like Jed, the one with the fedora. Oh, he bit his nose off in a fight. Like there was some violence in.
Yeah, he was a violent guy.
Yeah.
But I remember too, because during the weekends, I would make an attempt every weekend to spend the weekend at my grandparents. And it was usually me and my cousin Sherry that were there for the weekend. And let's just say a certain relative of ours had a thing for younger women, and my cousin was a lot younger than 18 at the time. And he, there were times where I felt like we had to protect each other. I mean, he was that kind of violence, and like to the point where my cousin and I actually came up with a plan on how we're going to kill my uncle.
Wow.
I mean, and that wasn't just out of entertainment. That was out of survival in case he did something violent towards us. And I'm 10 or maybe 11 years old at the time. That should not be a thought that 11-year-old has.
Yeah, I mean, on a side note, which is not a side note, I like Michael told me at one point that our parents told him that I tried to kill myself at 10 years old. Like there was some fucked up shit going on, and at 10 years old, like back in in the trailer, and 8, 9, 10 years old, I remember. And I don't yeah, I was a kid, so it doesn't matter what I say, but like there were at least 3 times where they woke up when I was 100% committed to killing my parents. They were
Hmm.
fucking terrible people.
Mm.
They thought I was sleepwalking, and this will be a nice one for them to realize. Well, at least one of them. The
Yeah.
other one might not get the message. Um, but they were terrible people. Like what they did
Hmm.
to us as kids is unforgivable. Like,
Yeah. And
Can,
it's
can
real
I
odd
ask?
because they catered to other people our age.
well, they wanted everybody to think they were great people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what exactly what I was gonna ask. Didn't anybody from the outside see this going on? And
I don't think so. I didn't see it.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
I think
I mean,
they
you
were
want to talk
close.
so it
about
was
that
literally it
childhood
was
trauma. Think about that childhood trauma. You grow up thinking this is normal.
so literally when people were around, it was a show until they left, and
100%.
then
Well, their big advocacy was how great parents they were. You want to talk to my kid, you talk to me. Like I'll deal with like that was like
Yeah.
really please talk to them. Like let's have this conversation. Like
so like, did you go to the grandparents often too, Mark, or no?
so the grandparents for me, like they were when my grandmother died. I was super close with our grandfather, which is still to this day I don't understand why we called him by his name Rucker.
I know. I know. And that's a good question, but yeah, when our grandmother died, she died in 86, and Mark, you were, well,
He was
obviously you
young.
were 9 years old or 10. Um, you were
But
about 10.
everything fell apart at that point for me
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't have protection anymore. It
Mhm.
was it was for me when she died, my protection was gone, and I remember when I broke my hand like playing football, and they were like, "No, you're fine." I'm like, literally, the bone is sticking up like almost out of my hand.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's not fine. Like I was so young. We were in the trailer, so I could have been like 8 or 9, maybe
Yeah.
10 at the most. And I went to her. I'm like, they're not gonna let me go and get this fixed. And she called him. She's like, you're taking him now. Like
Yeah.
you're going now. Like I broke my hand. Like it was clearly broken. And they were just like, he'll heal. He'll be fine.
Mhm.
like when she died, it was
That protection was
gone.
lost, you're right.
It was gone. Like
Yeah.
it was gone, and like I clung to Rucker as much as I could because I didn't like he didn't like he wasn't able
He
to
was blind.
protect. Yeah, not like oh he didn't see it happening. He was
No,
literally
he truly
blind.
didn't see it happen.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the funniest thing ever was I remember going in to visit him. He's like, Mark, I haven't seen you in forever. I'm like, you mean like literally forever? Like you've never seen me. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty accurate, right?
It was
Uh,
hilarious. Like I
Yeah.
like they were. Go ahead.
it just boggles my mind. I just because I didn't grow up in that environment. Now I've heard stories of that, but I'm just like, and Howie, like you deal with this on a pretty regular basis with the industry you're in now, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, you gotta wonder like, how does nobody on the outside ever catch that? You know?
There's
Because
obviously they don't want to catch it.
yeah, and
That's
that's
my
what I was gonna say. They don't wanna catch it. It's too much work for people to deal with. It really is. I mean, there were people that cared. Like, honestly, the only reason why things got noticed, and I'm not going to brag about myself in any way, shape, or form, but when I was a lot younger in elementary school, I was being tested as, in quotes, a genius. And it
And
was
I was on the other
because
spectrum. They were trying to get a check for me.
yeah, right. But during all that testing, they saw that they can see that I wasn't living in a normal environment, and I almost felt like because of that is why it gained recognition, and people started noticing and started kind of like questioning the environment that we grew up in. I mean, it was I guess when now that you look back on it, it was very obvious,
Mhm.
but that's because we now know better. And before, I didn't realize how well they were, meaning my parents, how well they did at hiding it
Absolutely.
from the outside.
And to speak to that, like I grew up 100% believing I was dumb.
Hmm.
Like I was told I
I
was
believed
dumb.
it.
I was told like you were the one who told me.
I was just gonna say he
You're
was
the one
probably one
that
of the ones
helped me
telling you.
understand it. Like
No.
I honestly, it wasn't like my friend Ralph, like him and his brothers were the ones who explained to me like you're not dumb. Like
Hmm.
you you can't like they like Ralph's brother explained to me like like humor, wit, and quick thought, like all that stuff, like the things I'm doing, like you can't be dumb. Like even if you think you are dumb, he's like you can't be funny and have a sense of humor and still be dumb. Like it still takes some kind of cognitive thought. Like I mean, he probably said a lot smarter than that, but I'm dumb, so no, but like he really like at that point, like I went to work for him at Xerox in New York, and like that was at the moment where I'm like, oh my god, like I spent my whole life everybody making me believe I was dumb, and like I'm just gonna be a cog, I'm gonna be a fucking laborer, do fence work, and I'm like nothing in the world makes me want to be like these motherfuckers who are basic knuckle draggers. Like you look at them like at 40, 50 years, like remember 40 years old, like they were fucking basically done.
I
Like,
know. I
and here we
know.
are, like we're pushing fucking, we're 50 years old, and
Yeah.
like I'm
So
not worried about.
what like and this
No.
is probably a question for both of you and like when do you remember it clicking that your home life was not normal?
Well, so I'll answer that. When Howie molested me at 6,
Oh
Thank God
man.
I'm the one that edits this. But-
it was
Oh,
tragic. It was tragic. No,
yeah.
I knew it from I knew it from a young age.
Yeah.
Honestly, like it wasn't hard to figure out. Like I knew I wasn't loved. Like
Was it just like
my
going over to like your friends' houses and seeing how their house was and then you're like, wait a minute.
You know what? We
Or
really didn't have that opportunity at a young age.
no,
So we were truly sheltered, and I
we were
still
kingdom
don't.
victims.
Yeah, and I can't even explain it, but I felt like we were pretty much a prisoner of our own property. Wouldn't you agree with that? Like they wouldn't
100%.
let us. They wouldn't let us outside the yard.
We weren't allowed to go to the neighbors' yards.
No.
Like there was like very clearly, if you cross that yard, I will beat your ass.
Yeah.
And that was no fucking underestimate. Like it was, that was fact.
Uh huh.
Like it was like also you could play football when it's raining, but if you get one drop of mud on you, I will beat your ass. Like
Hmm.
all right, I'm willing to risk this one.
well, I'm sure you guys had your fair share of ass beatings then.
Believe it or
Yeah.
not, yeah. I mean, not as much as you would think because they didn't care that much.
Yeah, but like, so that's the part like where, like, I still ask Michael, and he's like, I don't remember. Like, dude, I got beat a lot.
Hmm.
Like, I got hit a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, it's weird that nobody, like, I talked to him. He's like, I don't remember all that. I'm like, I know you don't.
Oh, I think you're breaking up a little bit, Mark.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Give it a
Uh,
second here. You broke up there for a minute.
yeah, but as far as like your question, as far as when we noticed it, I mean, I felt like growing up, we really, like I said earlier, it was we didn't know any better. We thought that this was normal, and this behavior was the way it was supposed to be. Like if I saw people acting in quotes normal and happy and all that, that just seemed odd to me. That they were
Right.
the ones that were the outsiders.
There's secrets.
Yeah.
People thought there were secrets. They're hiding something. Not everybody. Not everybody is honest about those things.
People
Hmm.
shouldn't be happy. Like, yeah. Like,
Right.
huh.
They're not really happy. They've got secrets.
Yeah. 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 They're the ones that are in the
Which
wrong.
isn't entirely untrue though.
Well, this is true.
Maybe. I mean, we were the prime example because from the outside, everybody talked about, like, and still to this day, you can ask anybody like that knew us. They're like, it's not true. Your parents were great people. They
Yeah.
loved you. They talked about how much they loved you all the time. I'm like, oh, yeah, love me less. Fucking love me less. Beat me less. Like, I would rather you hate me and hit me less.
Yeah. And I will say though, I felt like I got some justification when we were at your house for the picnic and everything, and I don't want to mention his name because I don't know what he wants other people to know, but a friend that used to always be around us
Yeah.
that was older, he kind of vindicated that, yeah, your family was messed up. And in fact, he was even screwed over by our family. And that's why he stopped coming over. And he was truly like an older brother to us.
Yeah. No,
And
and,
it,
and
and
I,
it
I
really
said to him,
hurt.
I know, yeah, I know he doesn't remember it, but like there was a weird, weird moment. Like, and I say it because like affection is weird in our family. Like, I remember him babysitting us and us watching TV, him sitting behind me, and I was so little in the trailer. And
Hmm.
I remember him like hugging me from like sitting in the seat, hugging me, and like just stupid shit is resting his chin on our head and just like showing affection. Like
Yeah.
we've been told that was him molesting us, but like he loved us. Like
Yeah.
he loved us. Like and to me, like that really shaped me because I knew there was like more than like what we were told. Like I felt that he loved us, and that
Hmm.
was like such a driving factor for me. And like he doesn't understand. Like I had this conversation, but like at that picnic, I drank a lot. So he's like, "All right, I'm not an asshole." But, but I remember, like, I was like, man, like, I know, like, there's more to life than what we're experiencing,
Hmm.
because I mean, I remember like one time, like, this is such a weird moment, but like, your dad went, your dad went to the dentist, and like he just got a tooth drilled out, and Michael was like, "Oh, drill, you got a drill," and he's laughing, laughing. And I thought it was funny. I'm like, "Oh, like I want to do that," and I did it, and he fucking backed me. Like, well, it's just that shit was funny like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, right.
More like it
Oh, I
is when you
know.
like the kid, but so terrible.
Yeah.
So it paid off to be the baby in your family, huh?
It sure
Yeah,
appears so, right?
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for what it's worth, that's where a lot of the story comes from.
Hmm.
A lot of the story is written about Michael because, like, he was the most impactful, and if you follow the connotation in the story, like he's evil throughout the story. Like whether or not
Hmm.
the story tells that, like the second book definitely does. The second book definitely explains his perspective, but I give a lot of hints in the first book that a lot of the things that happen are because of like how evil he is. Because
Hmm.
no matter how close I thought we were, it was never like for me, like family is loyalty. Like
Yeah.
we didn't get along, but I would never say a negative thing about you in public, and
Hmm.
I would have fucked anybody up that did. So but Michael, I remember all the time, like all the inner shit we had as a kid, like he would tell everybody. I'd hear it from like his friends, like, "Oh yeah, guess what he said?" I'm like, "Awesome, awesome."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would never say that about somebody to somebody else. Like I'll talk some mad shit,
Right.
but never say it to anybody else. And if you ever say it, you're gonna have to find out whether or not I can fight.
And I'm sure to this day he would still come up to you and tell you what you want to hear.
100%.
Yeah. And yeah, that's where the loyalty breaks up. But so this book has a lot to do with him. It's kind of his story in a sense, is what you're saying, right?
It's so trying to separate the first book from the second. The book is my like it all comes down to my relationship with the shadow people because I've seen them since I was a kid.
Hmm.
That was one of the things that I've battled as a kid. I've had night terrors, and it was always passed off as, "Oh, your dad has nightmares. That's why you have nightmares." But
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this. I would have to believe you do. Um, in the trailer, I don't know if you remember, like there was a big deal about me following our mama, or actually the story was, I walked up to our grandmother's trailer to pee. Do you
Yeah.
remember that story?
Oh, in your sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I was wide awake. Like I'll tell that story, and I will swear on my life to this story. I was wide awake. I
Uh-huh.
watched her walk out of the house, and I followed her. Like it wasn't her, obviously,
Yeah.
but I watched her walk out of the house, and I watched her walk like 50 feet, maybe more. Like that part of the memory, but she would look back to make sure I was following, and I kept
Huh.
following all the way up to the trailer. And when I got to the door, I watched her walk in and shut the door behind her. I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, I probably didn't say that as a kid, but
Yeah.
I watched her walk in. I went to grab the door and open it, and it was locked. So I knocked on the door because assuming she would be right there, and Grandma came out.
Yeah.
And she's fucking like, "What are you doing here?" The story
Yeah.
everybody remembers is like, "I gotta pee."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's not why I'm here. I followed our mom all the way in there, and she made me go home by myself, and I was like, "Fuck!" So I had to run home. I sprinted like my chubby ass sprinted so fast to get home. I got home and everybody's like, "What do you like? What happened?" I'm like, "Oh, like nobody believed it. They just assumed I
Yeah.
was sleepwalking."
Wow.
But
Wow.
So, what do you still see these night terrors to this day?
oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Man,
So not as frequently, but it's if so. The caveat is if I were to sleep alone, like it's one of the reasons my dogs sleep in the bed with me. Um, Erica sleep obviously Erica sleeps in the bed with me, but
Yeah.
like if I were to sleep alone in hotels, like it's terrible. Like I'll see not every time, but I'm gonna say at least 30% of the time I'll see the same thing.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I can't say that I see shadow people or anything, but me sleeping in the bed by myself, I can't do it either. Like I do have nightmares, but not in the same way that you have them, if that makes sense. Um, but I also have to have my dog sleep in the same bed with me as well if I'm there alone. Um, and and the way I grew up and the way we grew up, like I feel like I'm always in danger no matter where I'm at. I could be in a restaurant and I need to be able to see where that exit is and I need to see who's coming through there
Crazy is
because
that?
I just don't know, you know. And then we still have people in our lives that are still, you know, violent people. I mean, we have a cousin who, my gosh, some of the things that he has done and things that I've seen him do is just not a pleasant thing to
That's a
experience.
podcast for another day because I think he would gladly confess it all.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And but I would be scared to have him on here. I'll be honest with you. I would be
He's gonna
scared
fester
because then
it.
that would create a relationship I don't want to have.
do you
Yeah.
touch on some of your like? How much of your family dynamic do you touch on in this book?
So a lot, but it's right. This book is mainly focused around. In the book, Jake is my brother Michael. So if anybody doesn't know, um, I'll deny that in case it's a court proceeding. I mean, that's not true. But
He's the last person who's going to take you to court with his background.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah. So my relationship, my Aunt Joyce was kind of my like she was kind of a mother to me. Like I had
During
those
your early adult years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of those grown-up talks with her. Looking back, I don't think she loved me like I thought she did. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But I still always like saw her as a mother, and she was Aunt Maggie. She was very much into witchcraft as a kid, and that was what we were told. And as an adult, she was Jehovah's Witness, and she told me some weird shit growing up that, like, still to this day, like, I asked her as an adult, and she denied it. But like, one of the most profound things she ever said to me was the mirrors are the gateway to hell. And as a kid, like I'm talking like fucking young kid, like that was a weird statement. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, and she's like, you'll see when you get older. And like a lot of that I touch on in the second book because it ties deeper into the story of from Jake's perspective, but like her being in the first book, like a lot of, so it's weird. Like the things that you would think are in the book, most of them are about my traumatic like experiences. So the people in the first book all have some kind of tie back to my like the fucked up parts. So, and it's weird. The only thing like I will say like I regret in the first book is the positive things I say about my parents, and like it's like, and it's fucked up. Like when you read the book, it's like the night terrors, the nightmares, the bad things. Like I explain that they were there for me, and that's 100% not true. But
Yeah.
that's a weird part. Like that's a weird regret I had about the first book because like they were like the driving factor in the negative shit that happened in my life. Like there were some experiences that like I still to this day I don't like I would be interested to know more about what it's really about, but like and I've heard explanations like anxiety and whatever, but I remember three separate instances. Like I honestly I think I was drugged because I remember the room being super far away and everything like I would look at my hands and my hands would be like way out there. And I'm like looking back, I'm like, I think I was drugged. I think either I was around them while they were getting high or they drugged me to go to sleep.
Well, I don't know if you remember, but some of our cousins' parties we've gone to,
Absolutely. Oh,
drug and sex parties. I mean, you name it, it was going on. And I don't remember too many non-relatives there for that, which kind of really.
that explains a lot.
As we keep talking here a little bit, I want to throw this out here. Where can they find your book real quick as we're talking, just so that people
So
can, yeah.
it's on Facebook. Shifting or my website is Shifting Realities 2024. Shifting
Okay.
Realities 2024.
Okay.
And is that the website as well? Same
That is
thing.
the website.
.com.
Is
Okay.
that .com?
Yeah, it is .com.
Okay. Um, I wanted to bring that up, and as we transition here, the thing that really kind of stuck out to me there, you say you regret kind of sticking up for them. Like, why do
Yeah.
you think you might have done that?
Well,
You know what? I'll tell you what. Let me interject on this one because there was a period of time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but there was a period of time where you were really trying hard to bring this back together, this family dynamic that we never really had.
absolutely.
And because no matter what we did and no matter how hard we tried, and I've done it too, there were times where I every year before Christmas I would always try to call our mom and say that hey, what's going on, whatever, just trying to get back into some kind of dynamic of a family, but they kept on screwing us over.
Yeah, and for me, I definitely tried because, and the reason behind it was real simple. Like, when I reach out to people that knew me from God 1994, like when I 17, 18, 19 years old, like I was I was beating people up, I was stealing shit, I was vandalizing, like I was a fucking asshole. Like, and looking back, like how can I say to people, like, how do you judge me for being that me from then and then still hold them accountable for who they were then? And so I felt like a hypocrite, and everything I wanted to do, my life has taken a turn for the better. Like, I'm doing fine. So for me, it was more about saying, look, I'm different. Surely you're not the same people that you were back then. And it's true, 100%. They're not the same people. They're actually fucking worse, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's they're not good people. They were never good people.
So,
And
at the point that you wrote this book, is that kind of where you were? Still at the point of still trying to mend that relationship, so that's why you didn't want
at
to put
the
that
at
out
the
there?
end, it was at
Okay.
the end. Yeah. So I started the book at the end of I actually started, which is ironic. Like I started it before Howie's dad died. I started it then, and I got a lot of negative impact from people that knew I was writing the book, and a lot of it was, yeah, just get your story out. It's nobody's gonna read it, nobody's gonna like, but at least you can tell your story, and maybe that's the case. Like I don't even care because I'm not depending on this book for my financial
Sure.
future. I wrote this book because it's therapy. Like this book was my way of telling my story without telling my story. Eventually, I'll tell the whole story. And that story, that story I have to do once you know, Global Gates is no longer a thing because I probably never get another clearance on it. There's a lot of shit that like I
Yeah.
don't think I can tell. But the thing with them is like they were just never good people, and I tried to make something out of that relationship because like it's weird to me like that I'm like a grown up with like I don't have a family like and for Erica, she has close ties to her family, and it's like for me to explain, she gets it, she met him like the
Mm-hmm.
whole time, like it was some weird fakeness and that she wasn't fooled by. The honestly the only one that hurts her is Uncle Dave because like the
Yeah.
stuff that that he showed to her face, and behind her back he's talking about the stuff that he didn't know other people would tell us. That was
Right.
hurtful for her. Me, I'm just like, that's just family.
It's
That's what,
just par for the course,
yeah, that's just what you
unfortunately.
do. He'll need me again, and then he'll be nice again.
Yep.
Uh, the thing I said to Howie, like we just not that long ago, we had oh my gosh, help me out here, Olivia Faraball.
Yeah.
She was in town here, and we went to my church to see her perform. And one of the things that was said during the message by the pastor was about changing things from the past and making them better. And when he was talking to me, one of the first things that popped in my head was Howie, because I knew his past and how he's trying to change that generational gap and his family so that things like that don't concur. Did you ever try like feel yourself falling into that hole and feeling like you were going to be the same person that your parents were, or
Hundred
did you
percent.
know that that was not going to happen?
No, 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 100%, 100%. And whether he wants to say it or not, there's a lot of I think our dad in us the good like weirdly enough like I hate it, trust me, like
Mm-hmm.
um our mom like hated me so young that I don't think I can have her in me. But him, like I believe me, not my business sense. Like my company's doing fine. But my ability to talk with zero shame, like
Mm-hmm.
that, say what you want, like as fucked up as it is, like
It's a skill set.
100%. And
Yeah.
and like for as shitty as a person he was, like it was embarrassing growing up, hearing all the shit, all the people he fucked over, like, but like everybody will say the same thing. He was a funny guy. He was fun to be
Mm-hmm.
around. They liked him, like because they didn't really know him, like
He was the
until
part. He was the guy you wanted to be around during a party and during drinking and all that stuff. I mean, he was a very likable person. It was easy to see that from the outside, and I'll agree with you, Mark, that he was somebody that when push came to shove, yeah, he screwed people over, but somehow, some way, he talked himself out of it.
yeah,
And that's a skill set.
absolutely.
That's a skill set, and that's something. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's probably something we've inherited to a point. Like I can be in the roughest situation, and I will know in the moment how to get myself out of it by probably using the same skill set that he did. He knew how to say the right words to say, to watch other people say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense," and it's a weird thing to explain. It is.
And definitely even weirder to own
Mhm.
because like it's not easy to say how shitty of a person he was and then acknowledge that the positive traits I actually admire that I have, that you have, even Michael has, like
Mm-hmm.
David has, like
Oh
David,
yeah,
he like
he might be the
there's
master of them all.
absolutely, absolutely. But there's something beautiful about it. Like, but on the other hand, we have what they never had, they never will have, is work ethics and
Hmm.
morals. Like that's a
Yeah, I was
part.
gonna say morals is a big one.
Where do
Yeah,
you guys think you got that from? Obviously, it wasn't them.
for me, honestly, like it was the friends I grew up with, and like it was a shame I felt
Hmm.
when I got in trouble and it was written in the papers. Like all the shit I did, it was like I pretended I didn't care, but it was embarrassing. It was shameful. Like
Hmm.
the military, like at the time, like it was just another example of ways I could skirt around the law, the whatever. Like I found ways around everything, but it wasn't until I got out that I realized that I lost everything that supported me. Like getting out of the military and actually weirdly enough boxing was great for me. It helped me, but it was Muay Thai in North Carolina. Like my friends there loved me, like truthfully loved me. Like still to this day I could go down there and I have people that care about me, and my trainer, my coach, like he died. That was a weird one, but like I know they loved me. Like
Hmm.
supported me. Like they didn't know the old me. They knew the new me that I created, and I faked that enough that it became me.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing for me, because I knew these people love the new me, and I there was nothing I was going to do to be anything other than that, because the
Hmm.
old me, like if I would have stayed in Pennsylvania, I would have been the same thing. There's zero chance. I was getting in trouble. I was lying. I was stealing. I was like whatever the case was. Like I was a horrible person. Like I didn't like me. How the fuck could anybody else like me?
Yeah.
So was that
And I
always?
would say, what's that?
I mean, I was just gonna say, going back to that original question though, was that always something in the back of your head, like, if when I start a family, this is not how my family's gonna be. Like, is
No,
that?
no, not at all. Not at all. For me, it was I'll never bring a fucking child into this world. Like,
And
I
honestly, that's what my initial thought was too. There's no way I can, like, I don't want a family. Like, knowing what I grew up in and know how I grew up, there is no way I truly wanted to have a family because I didn't want to continue what we lived,
no,
Mm-hmm.
I
you
believe the
know.
world. Like, I believe the world was so bad. It was such a terrible
Mhm.
place. Like, I mean, for me, like, I know for me, I tried to kill myself in 2000, maybe 2001.
Mhm.
Um, I I just believed this world was fucked, and I knew, like I still believe this. I believe there's something after, and like that part is in the book, and that's real. Like that
Yeah.
parts in the book are real about me killing myself. Like I I was in the happiest moments. Like I was never happy because I knew who I was. I knew where I came from. I knew the things that happened to me, the things I did. I just like you could put me around 1,000 people and I could be the life of the party, having fun, doing
Mhm.
whatever, and like I was dead inside. Like it was all a matter of when, and like God, like there for me, like I don't know that people relate with this or if it's real or whatever, but I would hear like when people say the whispers, like I would hear all the time. It was like somebody was whispering, "Kill yourself," constantly.
Mhm.
Like I heard that from the time I was a kid till, like weirdly enough, my friend Dada, who's super religious, like I talked to him one day. This was way after. This was only like maybe like 6 years ago. I talked to him like, man, I'm like, I want to preface this by, I'm not gonna kill myself. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't mean it when I said it, but I'm like, I have to say something because I need somebody to hear this. Like, I hear it constantly. like kill myself. And he was like, well, I hope you don't. Just know that he's like I love you. Like I would be hurt if you did that. And we had a real conversation about that in that moment, and that literally immediately stopped the voices. Like, and I haven't to this day like heard that. And it's a weird thing. Like, obviously, I assume it was me. Like, obviously, like I was giving myself some bad advice, but for me, like my advice on that would be for anybody, like man, like fucking, if you know anybody that's thinking about a guy, like talk to him, because
Oh
like I
yeah.
didn't have that. Like I didn't have it when I tried to kill myself. Like I had people surrounding me that were like they were just people that loved me for the party. Like
Sure.
if I were around,
Loved
there
you
were
in the moment.
party. Like,
Right.
yeah, like
Yeah.
whatever was going on, and it's like it's interesting.
And keep in mind
So
too, we grew up in a family where we had three cousins that killed themselves.
Yeah.
wow.
And they were all siblings of all things.
Oh jeez.
So
It's in
it's
the book,
it's
by the way.
dark, not just with what's that?
I think it's in this book, but it's definitely in one of the books.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, I mean, you know, that goes dark, and that was part of the family that we considered the good part of the family, if you would
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
correctly, right?
That's part.
So yeah, so it's kind of weird, like how we were all always around that, and um, yeah, I mean, but again, that was normal.
So
Their actions were normal. The Our cousins, our uncles. I mean, in a weird way, I always enjoyed being around certain people. Like our Uncle Dave. He was always that happy, jovial guy to be around, even when we were kids. And even our Uncle Ken. And I know you have probably a different opinion of him than I do, but he always had my back. And it's kind of weird when you think about that. They had our backs in a weird way that our own parents wouldn't have our
Well,
backs.
I'll say this. So here's the irony of Uncle Ken. Uncle Ken was only actually. Jed bought me my first Christmas gift. That, by the way, I found in your dad's fucking jewelry box. He bought me a watch as a kid. Ken bought me my first He-Man figure, um, and I loved Uncle Ken. Uh,
Yeah.
Up until he fucked our mom.
Like when you say that literally, right?
Yeah, and the irony of that is, I didn't hate him for doing that. Like, I just hated him because, like, I got back from the military basic training. He was like, "You're gonna pay rent here," and I'm like, "Wait, who the fuck are you?" You're gonna charge me rent to stay in
Yeah.
a RV at my parents' house? And
Yeah.
meanwhile, they had an intervention where they're like, "Oh no, he lives here now." I'm like, "Wait a minute, wait, my dad is with, like, true or not, a hooker." So, whoo, fuck you, people. Uh, and my mom is with my uncle. I'm like, does anybody else find this situation super weird? So bad that Norm went in the kitchen. He's like, "You're on your own, bro."
Troy, you should just be happy I have thumbs.
so before we started recording, and we're coming up on an hour, so I don't know how long you guys want to go into this yet. But before we started
I'm,
recording, I kind of said,
okay.
um, you know, when did you guys kind of reconnect? Now you kind of grew up basically being taught to hate him. So when did you guys reconnect? Then?
Well, honestly, I moved. So I was living in Texas, and when I moved back, I my life was on the upward spiral. Like for me, financially, like relationship, like everything about me, I was coming to terms with my past, my future, success, and success isn't like I wasn't rich. I was making, I think when I'm at that time, I was probably only making like 80 grand, but I felt financially successful. I had a house. First time I realized like owning a house was a smart financial investment. Like
Not a
because
trailer.
yeah, yeah, I didn't like credit. Like I didn't know like who credit was important. Like and at that point, like that was I reached out and like it was basically like I wanted to share it with people that knew me, like to say, hey, I'm proud of you. I know what you did. Like I know where you came from. I know
Mhm.
what you've done. And like the people that knew me only knew me for the things I was at that moment, but they didn't
Hmm.
know where it came from. Who I was before that point. And like I knew the people that like if I went back to Jonestown, like everybody was like, "Oh, this asshole. This is the guy who steals shit. This is the guy
Yeah.
who's getting fights all the time." Like, and I'm still the same person then. Like, I'll never be different to them. But that's when we reconnected because like
So
I was like,
was it? Did you guys stay in touch at all during that time, or no? I
we
mean,
didn't
no.
stay in touch even
So
growing up.
was this a way of like
Even when we
either
lived together.
Yeah, right.
was this your way of like either mending it or closing the door on it altogether,
It
or
wasn't thought out. It
okay?
No.
wasn't thought out. It was like he was family. I wanted family. I didn't know him. Like I didn't know him growing
Hmm.
up. Like I can
Right.
say that now. I didn't know you growing up. Like
Hmm.
I just knew I hated you, but I didn't know why. Like
Well, I was always looked at by our family as I'm too good for them. And it's kind of weird to say that because like what makes me too good for you other than I didn't follow down your path, you know, of your behaviors and such. And I felt like because they marked me that way, it kind of trickled down to everybody else of thinking the exact same way because they were good at manipulating everybody else to feel that way about me. And, and I felt like I had a really close connection with my cousins, specifically my oldest cousin, Sherry. We were really close growing up, and that hurt me the most that she kind of fell into the same line of believing into everything they say. And that's something that I always cherished. I cherished having those cousins growing up and just having people to hang around with. Um, you know, and even with like Mark, I always wanted that out of our family. I wanted that out of Michael.
yeah,
And I felt like when I gave him a chance and he screwed me over, I felt like, you know what? Why am I doing this? And that kind of pushed me a little further away even from Mark, even though I didn't know him basically. It still pushed me away because now I can't trust anybody. He
Hmm.
gave me reason to not trust anybody.
yeah. Oh, well, I definitely growing up gave everybody reason not to trust me. I wanted that. I didn't want
Mhm.
like I didn't like I had my friends and the weird part for me is I grew up watching Godfather movies, Casino, Godfather, like my friends and I had this weird
Porky's, right,
like
Howie?
Yeah. Oh, do you remember that?
Porkies.
Yeah.
Is that
Do
what we
you
saw?
do you
Unfortunately, because we watched it as drive-in,
No,
like
no, it was in a walk-in. It was in the Oh, I remember to this day. You remember the movie theater next to Sears in Lebanon?
Yep.
yeah,
The
That
yeah.
is
Allen
where
Theater.
we
Yeah.
watched Porky's as kids with our parents.
Today.
Hey, you can't say they didn't do anything with you.
Look, I have some memories that I keep reserved that I don't know if are real or not, and I'm guessing they're real. Uh, like we're not gonna expose them here, but I like, they're- I think
Third
some
book.
weird shit.
Third book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
trust me, it's coming out. Like
That's going to be when the author is anonymous.
no way. I
You
get
need a
zero
pen
fucks
name.
about that. Like I have to sell enough books to make it worthwhile to sell my soul.
What was it
It ain't
instead of doc?
about rekindling family. They're not coming back. They've already ripped me off.
Instead of
Because
Dr. Seuss, what was it? Theo Leisig or something like that? Remember that? You need maybe maybe you could
Yeah.
use the name like Mike White or something like
Yeah, there we go.
that.
There we go.
Or
uh,
I like
just
it.
put M White. Just put M White.
Ah,
who's that guy?
perfect.
Like I don't even recognize that guy.
Hey, the scary part is he has an older brother by the same name.
Oh no no, it's even worse. I have two older brothers. The oldest is Mark, and the one younger than him is Mike. And
What?
then Howie, and then Mark, me, and then Mike, my youngest brother. But
So Howie,
coincidence.
you're sandwiched by Marks and Mikes.
You got it. You know what? I probably had the worst of the deal because I'm a junior.
Yeah,
Well,
you
I
don't
mean, you're
carry
just
the
like your
junior though, do you?
dad.
I'm carrying my dad's legacy.
Do you have that as your legal name, or did you change it?
It's my legal name. Yeah.
You need to
Well,
change that shit. Um, can we
No.
continue with that pee?
Yeah.
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
pee.
yeah.
Just hold tight. You
Okay.
guys can keep going on.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, oh man. So you guys have been in touch here, Howie. What the last?
Couple
How
years.
long? Okay, like within
Yeah, it's been
five.
the last couple to few years. Probably since right before COVID, so maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and but yeah, he has made several real attempts because I mean, you want family, and you want to have some type of connection. You want to be able to lean on somebody, things like that
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
people take for granted, to be honest with you.
Sure.
And 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 I felt like he got screwed over royally by trying and making those attempts because
Hmm.
they basically used him,
Yeah.
and they really show no interest. I mean, they're a lot of the family, they're all about, oh, here's, wow, they're spending money on food, let's go and get a free meal type of mentality.
Oh my.
And yeah, and it's sad to see because they don't realize that if they put a little effort into wanting to be around us, we would make such a strong effort to build that connection.
Hmm.
And I've tried, and like I said, my mom has even at sometimes, she seems, looking back on it, it seems more pretend than it was for real. And then if I didn't make the attempt or if I didn't keep it going, uh, she would just drop it. And then I got to the point where I'm like, why am I trying? You're not making
Sounds like
any
your
attempt.
mom.
Yeah, yep, your mom.
She would
So,
immediately. I would hear it from Michael. Like, oh yeah, he must want something.
hmm,
I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, it's called family, you asshole.
yeah, right. I
Like,
know.
So
I
anytime you
still,
try to get in touch, it was always because you wanted something out of it. Is that
And
I,
and really think about it. What am I getting from that?
right?
Like,
childhood
what am I?
trauma.
Yeah, I mean, what am I getting monetarily? Nothing. What am I getting physically? Nothing. I'm just trying to keep a connection that really never existed in the first place.
Mend
Hey,
some
no,
fences and hope that people grew up, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you like. I'm telling you, like, I obviously I didn't know. I had no idea what was really going on in your life. Like, I thought I was the only one going through that shit.
Yeah.
That was the worst part for me was feeling alone because I talked to Michael. Like, you guys were close, we were close, but
Mhm.
the three of us were never close, and I feel
No.
like that was by design.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
and and I talked to Tim, and he thought it was a great story to talk about tackling me into the bushes and having the hedge bush go through my cheek. So fuck you,
Ooh.
Tim.
Yeah. You remember Tim Crawl? You mean?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to
Um,
school with his little brother, so
Ryan.
Ryan.
yeah. Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. We grew up right down the street from them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. We were neighbors.
But I mean,
That's
even that, like, honestly, like, they shaped and impacted our life because they were an extra set of eyes that forced some kind of normalcy. Could you imagine if there was no accountability, the shit that would have happened? Like Scott Kelly's dad,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
to Tim's dad, like obviously Donald's dad. That one probably didn't matter.
Who was
so
married to Joyce, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
like would you say, other than the emotional and sometimes physical abuse that you guys would go through, were you guys like literally, were you like making your own meals? Were you like, like
Now,
Well, I was just going to say that's something that's kind of weird to say because growing up, and I don't even know if you remember this, Mark, but like obviously we would get government assistance and all that stuff. We would
I
get this
love that
box,
goddamn
yeah,
cheese.
box of cheese and spaghetti noodles and macaroni and whatever and spam, all that good stuff, that government issued food. And a lot of the times, I was the one, even at like the age of 9, I was making buttered noodles with ketchup. I remember that, for all of us to eat because nobody ever made food.
Oh, I still hear Erica like she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna make buttered noodles." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of my house!" I swear to God, if you cook one buttered noodle, we're done.
You know what? She'll kill me for saying this, but my wife, we were having an argument, and she was talking about like you never do. She was making some kind of comment about you need to do this and do that, and I'm like, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna make us a meal. You want me to make you a meal? I'm gonna make you a meal how I grew up. And and I did that. I made the butter noodles with ketchup, and you know what? She never complained ever
You never
again.
complain.
Yeah,
I hear you.
because she's like, "Why are you making spaghetti?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, you want a meal like how I
Nice.
grew up? All right, let's do that." You know?
Yeah,
And-
I like to cook. I cook. I just like to cook.
yeah, me too, actually.
But butter noodles,
They're
butter
not in your
noodles.
diet anymore, huh?
She heard butter noodles. She came running.
We lived
Nice.
that. We lived that every day.
The only thing I wouldn't eat from that government packet was the peanut butter. It was disgusting. Like that was not real peanut butter. I don't know what it
No.
was made of.
I remember we had like a block of cheese, and we
Oh,
had a cheese
I'll
grater.
say it a million times. Like
What's that?
that. No, no, not right away. We used to use a knife up until like we got fancy.
Oh,
Then we got that little roller with the wire in it.
yeah, we must have inherited that somewhere along the line.
Somebody probably died.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, a cheese grater.
Fuck yeah, we're rich. Look, I still I don't know what that cheese was made of, but like I still don't poop right.
It's still clogging your
Yeah,
intestines.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. No, it was weird. The whole like it was a generational welfare. Like it was just assumed. I there was no shame in it. They didn't feel shame. Like
Not at all.
no, still don't.
No,
Still
no.
don't.
So when the dust settles, you wrote this book. All this stuff is coming out. Um, what would you like in the best case scenario? That what would you like for this book to do for your benefit?
So part of it's already done it. Like at first I wrote it, I started out writing it to tell my story. Like but it was never meant to be published. It was never meant to be written
It was kind of like
because
a journal.
yeah, it was, but so so at one point years ago when we first started talking again, you mentioned writing a book. And what it did for me, I was like, I gotta be careful what I say to him. Jesus. Like you're asking me a question, I'm like, that's not going in the book. Like and then I hit a point where like I can't heal. Like I can't heal as a person because like truthfully what happened is when Norm's son died, like that fucked me up. Like because not because his son died, but like I hung out with his son right before he got sick. And like and then he got sick and watch somebody you love like Norm and I were close, watch him suffer was like that was painful for me, like that was hard
Sure.
to watch. So like seeing that and knowing like what he was going through and I could never explain like part of my life because it's just like it was just hard. And Norm asked me, he's like, Mark, please do one thing for me. He's like, thank you for coming like this to the funeral. Like, but please do one thing. Watch, like I did a seminar for him, Wake Up Warrior, and like I was like, this is the gayest shit ever. like, but but I'll honor you and respect you for what you asked me to do. And I gave it everything, and one of the biggest things from it was like speaking your truth. Like in all of the like hardest things you ever have to say was like, and it's why I said like, look, when the shit was going on, I'm like I was very clear. I'm like, look, I love you. That's hard to say, We don't say
Mhm.
that. Like we didn't grow up saying that. But
We didn't call our mom and dad mom or dad.
no,
Never.
You're
no.
kidding.
Nope,
Really?
never did.
Nope, no. So, but for me, I went through that thing, and I like people laughed at me, people made fun of me. I was like, like that's okay. Like, if you're gonna make fun of me for saying like my like speaking my feelings, my emotions, I'm like, and the thing is, I didn't grow up a beta male. I fought everybody, like anybody I could fight. I fought. I mean, the amount of street fights I've been in, like normal
Mhm.
people don't go through that. Like boxing, Muay Thai, like jujitsu. Like I loved to fight. I don't know, I'm sure I'd still love it, but I'd break a hip at this point. Like, but I could fight anybody. I could feel that, like the amount of physical pain from fighting was all so I wouldn't have to feel the emotional pain.
Mhm.
Like that's the part like you can't like you there's not a punch in the face that can get rid of the emotional like pain you could feel. And that wake up warrior like made me speak my truth. And it was during that like there's thousands of people on this thing, and fucking guys called me like we're on a thing and like called me out like Mark White, let's talk to you. I'm like, oh goddamn, come on. Like I'm going through the motion. And they were talking about asking me questions about my past relationship. I'm like, well, it kind of sucks. But and they're like, no, you don't get out that easy. Like, let's talk about it. I'm like, oh.
Uh,
Meanwhile, she's listening in the other room, and I'm like, well, I'm like, we haven't had sex in 3 years. We don't talk. We don't sleep in the same room. And it's like, I'm like, fuck it. I'm in. You got me. Like, let's commit to this.
mhm.
And at that point, I'm like, you know what? Like, that's my truth. I'm speaking my truth, and I'm gonna give it my best effort to speak my truth. And like being honest, people are like, oh yeah, I'm an honest person. I'm like, fuck you, you're a liar. Like I'm
Mhm.
a liar. I was a liar. Like I was telling all the things people like I knew from like this comes back to your dad. Like I knew what to say, that I knew what I needed to say when I needed to say it. But in this moment, I was like, I'm gonna speak my truth,
Mhm.
and that's the hardest part. That was a turning point for me because like that was part of like what helped me write the book because
Yeah.
like even though I'm not gonna come out and write like my truth that way because that part that's different because I still have a career I got to maintain. Like
Mhm.
when the career is done, the truth will come out.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that about you because, speaking your truth, why didn't you make this a biography? But I guess you were looking at it from a bigger picture as far as what you need to protect from a business standpoint and so forth.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, I mean, there's just from perception. That's
Mhm.
perception is strength, and the person running the company, owning the company, and then there's clearances. There's that part that also
Yeah.
is, I've had a ton of background, but like when you get into the psychological part of it, it's risky. So,
Mhm.
but I don't think I think there's a portion of my story that is by the time the books are done, I'll be able to tell my story.
Okay. So basically the book is real, but it's not real because, we still gotta protect the innocent, meaning you.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
so the parts that there's some parts that are obviously not real,
Mhm.
but all of it all of it is tied to truth.
Yeah.
Like there's a part in the end that is maybe, and I'll tell this part of it, even though maybe it's a you know maybe I shouldn't, but I will. Like there's a part in the end. There's a part in the end of the book where it's maybe the ultimate scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life. I have night terrors. I mean, above death,
Mhm.
like feeling like I was dead, knowing I was dying, car accidents, trying to kill myself. There's nothing more scary than an experience I had where, like, so I died. I don't know how to explain it, what happened, what was real, what wasn't. But what happened was I was engulfed in darkness. I held my hand up in front of my face. I couldn't see my hand. I couldn't feel my hand. It
Mhm.
was it was a perception of emptiness. All I was left with, there was no physical body, there was no physical space, no breath, no air, no nothing. I knew I
Mhm.
wasn't breathing. I knew I wasn't dying. I knew I wasn't alive. But all I was left with was nothing but my thoughts.
Mhm.
So, in that moment, if that is hell or heaven, I felt like it was my choose your own adventure. And that was part
Mm.
of what helped me deliver this book because part of me wanted to create it as a choose your own adventure because I grew up with those books as a kid. I
Yeah.
loved them.
Mhm.
But my choose your own adventure was already chosen. And in that moment when I died, I was left with nothing but my thoughts, and my thoughts
Mhm.
were fucking terrible. Like they were horrifying. Like I was left with every person I fucked over, every lie I told, every bad thing I did, and I felt like in that moment, had I died and I was a good person, I would have been left with good thoughts and good
Mhm.
memories and everything that I didn't have in that moment. And it
Mm.
never stopped. It felt like it lasted fucking eternity. And then I
Yeah.
woke up crying and I was utterly fucking terrified. So I've never felt anything more
Mhm.
fear driven than that moment. And it was one of the moments where I was like, I have to be a better person. Like
Yeah.
I need to find religion. I need to find God. I need to find anything that'll make that not real
Mhm.
because that was terrifying. And I still get like, I got sweaty even talking about it.
Wow. So with the people that you have dealt with and that you feel like you've screwed over in the past, is there something that you want them to see you in a different light today, or is it one of those things that's just past and gone and we can't deal with it anymore? Like, how do you want people after they read your book? How do you want them to perceive you?
So I don't think the book is going to change a perception of me. I think anybody who reads that book that knows me is not going to think differently of me.
Mhm.
The people from my past, Facebook's a perfect example of that. Facebook is a culmination of your past life, your current life, your future life. It's an amalgamate, if I can't even say the word, amalgamation of
Mhm.
everything you were and are. And those things for me, I'm the same person. I'm the same person I was, the same person that fucked you over then. I'm the same person that may have punched you at a bar,
Mhm.
but I'm the person now that feels remorse. Like
Mhm.
Mhm.
I I still care the way I did. I fought then because you hurt me emotionally. Now I don't because I know I'm a better person. I know how to walk away. I know how
Mhm.
to be a better person. Like the book's never going to change anybody. The book's never going to see me differently. Even if I wrote my story, it sums up the Trump presidency. Like you have a story about him, about me that you want to tell. Like, and my success in my company only drives more hate and more resentment because I'm the asshole. How did he become successful? How
Yeah.
did he overcome like bullshit? Because I'm a good person. I've always been a good person, even though like
Mhm.
they're the people that have been stealing, lying, talking shit behind their back. Like I just happen to be the person that got caught in a bad time, and I
Mhm.
happen to be the person that still says fucked up shit. Like like
Yeah.
I'm not like an ideal storybook. Like
Mhm. Well, coming at it, like looking at it from from a psychological point of view, I feel like you've always had the drive to want to succeed, but you never had the support from people who wanted you to succeed. And I feel like you're in a position now where you have the support in your girlfriend, Erica. You have a family that you never had before in I'm going to call him here, your stepson, Liam. You
yeah.
know, and I feel like you now have that reason to continue to drive forward and you're now allowing yourself to separate yourself from all that negativity that you always tried to continue to get them to approve of you. And now it doesn't mean anything anymore. Who cares if your mom doesn't approve of you, or your brother, doesn't approve of you? This isn't about them anymore. This is about you making something better about yourself, and the people within your immediate circle, meaning your girlfriend and your stepson. Those are the people that you are more concerned about approving of what you do, because you want to make their life better as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And those are things that you probably never had before.
No, I definitely didn't. I
Yeah.
definitely didn't. And like the book really is, when you read it, I think the crazy part about the book for me is the separation between, like, I always called it the in between. Like, it's something that is always stuck out with me, because
Hmm.
the dream world, which seemed just as real to me as, like, the waking world, and then there's that weird in between, like when I'm half awake, half asleep, and that's where all the weird shit happens.
Hmm.
So that's in the book where I get to explain the weird shit that I don't know what is real or
Yeah.
I don't. And
That's weird because isn't that the time when most people, when they have that, when you're in that in between stage, when right
Hmm.
when you're falling asleep but you're not quite asleep yet, that's when people always have that drop, that falling feeling, like they're falling.
Yeah.
You know, that's that same time frame. And but for you, you're not falling. You're seeing these night terrors. Like that's
it's
interesting.
Yep.
so there were some weird experiences, and like I said, I grew up believing they were fact, they were real. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, I, like, in the trailer, like, so I think we got out of, like, maybe he said 86 we moved. But I remember our uncles, I think Jed and my dad, went up on the roof to work on the antenna. We had an old antenna, like,
Hmm.
remember the towers, like,
Yep.
so they went up there to adjust it, and I remember them saying, "Hey, look, when it's clear, yell." And
Hmm.
I remember watching the TV and seeing the tower on the roof and saying, "Hey, it's clear." But, like, now as an adult, I'm like, "Wait, like, I saw the tower, like, I saw the roof, like, that wasn't possible."
Hmm.
And so I don't know, like, those are the weird memories that I have that I don't know were real. And those are, like you said, like for me, the in between is where the weird shit happened. Like, I
Man.
don't know if I was awake. I don't know if that was real. And memories, a motherfucker, because, like, I'm trying to remember shit when I was 8. I remember weird shit
Yeah.
when I was like 2 and 3. Like,
Right. Yep.
is it a real memory, or is it like something I saw somewhere or heard and I remembered it as a memory? Like,
Or something you dreamt. Right. You know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
dreams for
yeah.
me, like, my dreams are so vivid, so real. Like, even now to this day, like, I hear people are like, "Well, I barely remember my dreams." I'm like, my dreams, like, are are so vivid and so telling that they're, to me, not a whole lot different than waking life, because I can tell you my dreams pretty vividly. And, like, I used to write them all down, but, like, at a point it's like, well, what's the point? Like, I mean, they're
Do they
dreams.
continue? Do they continue, or is it something new each time?
Sometimes they continue, sometimes they're new. Some of my dreams are, like, I mean, the here's an example of one, like, and maybe at this point, you know well, actually, like, I don't remember where I was at mentally at this time, but I remember, like, following a path going up a rocky, like, I can see, like, bushes, trees, rock outcroppings. And I remember seeing, and like, this is weird, but I remember seeing Jesus with his, like, he had his leg up on the rock with his elbow resting on his knee, and I knew who it was. And he's like, "Look, Mark, when the time comes, throw the book in the water." I'm like, what do you mean?" And he handed
Mm.
me a book. It was a giant dark brown leather bound book, and he handed it to me. He said, "When the time comes, you'll know. Throw it in the water." and I didn't know what it meant. I still don't know what it meant, but I woke up, and within like a month, I was traveling to Texas for the first time, and I was going into a hotel, and I had this weird habit of talking to weird strangers, like, and having deep conversations because like I got nothing better going on because I'm traveling. And this Indian lady, like, she was she was definitely like, she was Hindu, and I was like asking her questions about the Hindu culture, the religion, and we had a long conversation. It was like an hour. She was probably like, maybe I was in. It was like maybe 2012, 13, and I was like, I don't know how old I was at the time, but she was probably like 60, 70 years old. And she went back. Like, I'm not gonna do the voice right now, but she went back to the back and handed me the Bhagavad Gita, and she's like, "Do me a favor. Whatever you do when you're done reading this, please throw it in the water. Do
What?
not." So here's the irony. Like, she told me that in Hindu culture, you don't, like, you have to cleanse it by throwing it in the water first. And I've never heard that before or after.
Hmm.
So it's like, I assume it's accurate, but it was a weird statement, and I got chills. I froze. I was like, what do you like? Why did you say that? She's like, stop. Just take the
Yeah.
book and shut the fuck up. Like, I was like, I'm gonna take this book, and I still have that book. I won't get rid of that book. It's not going in the water.
Wow.
But like, that's like an example of a weird, like, moment that, was it a coincidence? Could have been. Maybe it had no bearing on my dream, but I've never heard that statement before,
Have you
after,
read the
or
book?
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Okay,
Like, I
so why, if she's telling you to throw the book in the water, and you saw Jesus and he told you to throw the book in the water,
when I'm
why
done
have we
with it,
not thrown that book in the water?
she said when I'm done with it. She said when I'm done with it.
Okay,
So
okay.
since that point,
And
um,
and Jesus said you would know when to do it, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, he put a lot of faith in me because from that point, I've had two other dreams that were tied to Jesus. One of them I cannot remember for the life of me, but the other one was like, all I remember was a red backdrop. Like, it looked like, I couldn't remember if it felt like a nuclear holocaust or like a volcanic eruption, but I
Hmm.
was leading five people somewhere, and I remember Jesus was part of that, and I was walking, and it was after, like, obviously I had my donkey, and like, that's a weird statement out loud, but like, it was my donkey and my dog and four other people.
Hmm.
So, and like, those are weird dreams that, like, just vivid dreams that, like, I
Man,
feel like had some kind of bearing on life.
now you said
But
you were right. You used to write your dreams down, but you stopped.
yeah.
Like I feel like you should keep writing those down because I feel like you almost have another book out of just your dreams.
Look, I will tell you. So I picked up my journal, and the part of the, like, journals in the book, like, there's a section specifically on the journal. But I picked up the journal and read it, and I'm gonna tell you, man, like, you want to talk about fucked up. Like, when, no matter what you got going on in your life, like, I picked up the book and I read the day before I was ready to kill myself. And there's nothing more fucked up than reliving that experience. So, like, oh man, it's weird. Like, and it was fucked up because Erica, like, she's like, I found the book, like, and I honestly, I thought it was lost forever.
Hmm.
And she's like, don't read this. I was like, no, we gotta read this. We gotta read this. This is good. Like, open up the page, and it happened to be the page, like, when I was talking about, like, not wanting to live anymore. And I was like, well, that's fucked up. Like, to re-experience that, like, to read it, like, and it's weird because, like, when you read it and you're not that person, Like I was reading it as another person, and to feel what that person went through, man, that's fucked up. Like to see what he went through in that moment, like the emotions, the like the emptiness, the pain, like man, that fucked me up. I immediately cried and I couldn't even stop.
Mhm.
Like I couldn't stop it because like I felt what he went through, and I say that in the third person because like I don't feel like that's me, and that's part of like what I believe about death, and I'm not sold on that belief. I'm just like it's a weird belief. Like part of the book is explaining death as shifting realities. Like
Mhm.
I died today, and even though this me died, I didn't die. Like I go on and let's just the easiest way to explain it is you splinter off and you die, let's just say for shits and giggles 1,000 times, but you never die. Like I go from point A to point B dying 1,000 times, but each time like I create that sadness in 1,000 people's lives, but for me that never happened. I never died. I experienced whatever I went through, but I never died. And for me, it was the easiest way to explain it was I've been in a lot of car accidents. I've been in a lot of like like falling off roofs, falling off telephone poles, like falling. Like, that was my dog, by the way.
Wow.
I was like, "Oh, your story. I'm sick of hearing it."
That's too funny. Um, yeah, I mean, man, it's weird hearing your story because part of that story I lived as well,
Hmm.
and but it almost doesn't feel like I lived that story in a weird way. You know, I feel like I've lived my own story that was horrible, but in the same sense, we kind of lived it the same way. We just have different perceptions of how we saw it, you know, and it's kind
Yeah,
of weird to hear. It's kind of weird to hear your version of it and what you've experienced because I think there's a lot more going on that you probably don't even realize
I would
has
say,
happened, and I'm sure the same goes for me too.
Yeah.
And we just deal with it different ways, you know. Whether you know it's through work or through your personal lives, whatever. And I'm just glad that I have somebody around that can kind of collaborate these stories because sometimes I feel like when I'm sharing things at times that happened in our past, people look at me like, "There's no way that's
you're
real."
making it up.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, no, it's as real as it gets, and trust me, I'd prefer it not to be real.
I
And
trust me. You like I've had a lot of people who are like, "Well, you tend to exaggerate the truth." I'm like,
we didn't
maybe,
exaggerate enough. That's the problem.
yeah, maybe, but the wrong way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's I don't know. When you look at how we grew up, do you feel like it made you stronger, or do you feel like it made you a worse person overall?
Overall, better. I would
Hmm.
have never accomplished what I accomplished. So I was honestly, if it weren't for Ralph and his brother, like Scott was important to me, Chris was important to me, Chris's dad Ernie was important to me, Susie was important to me. They're like his mom, like
Hmm.
all these people. Scott's parents, like still love these people. Like they shaped me and saved me. But Ralph and Billy, actually Billy, like he was the one who let me know. Like I mean, he said it to me in the nicest way. Like he's like, do you want to be a ditch digger for the rest of your life? He's like, do you want to be like your family? He's like, you're better than this. And like I completely fucked him over, like, because I wasn't mentally. It was when I was living in New York. I was like,
Yeah.
I. So the irony of that is, I had an immense anxiety that I've never felt before. Like I just knew I had to leave, and I will tell this story, and everybody can tell me you're full of shit. I give zero fucks because I had three dreams fucking back to back, three nightmares in a row. The first one was I was with Scott Whitman in a cabin, and we were grilling out, and the the gas bottles blew up and fucked me up, fucked him up, like everything. Second dream was we were on a window, like one of those scaffoldings like hanging from a window,
Yeah.
and there was a huge explosion and the cable broke and we fell from like a huge building. And then the third one was some other dream that I don't remember, but
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I got to get out of here. I hate it. Like I was boxing at the time. I was boxing at Westbury PAL. Fucking hate it. I was jogging in Weehawken, New Jersey. It was shithole. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was no trees, no nothing. I hated it. It was terrible. And I just one day I grabbed what I could grab in a car and I left. And I moved to North Carolina. And a month later, the trade centers were hit. Like
Mm.
I still to this day believe my anxiety made me leave for a reason. Like would anything have happened? I don't know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never felt so much reason to leave in a hurry than I did at that moment.
Interesting.
But like I still do regret because Billy was like, but he was one of the few people who saw potential in me, and he
Mm-hmm.
was like he changed who I was. Like I would have been a piece of shit, like the rest of them, still putting up fucking fence because I can make a quick buck and like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but no, that's. Do I have regrets now? No, I
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't change anything. Like
Yeah.
I would. I don't think. I don't think I'm a good person or a bad person, but I. That's not true. I do think I'm a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think the world will see me that way because of the bad things I've done. But
Well, again, the world doesn't have to see you that way, right?
agreed,
You
agreed.
know, it's the people within your immediate circle that need to see you that way. You
Yeah,
know, and I feel like you have that. You have that support system that you never had before, and to me, that's the same thing that I experienced. You know, because I obviously had the same support system that you had, which was nothing. But I latched on to people who were friends. You know, in my case, it wasn't Scott Whitman, but it was Dave Runkle.
yeah,
Um, and his family. They were the ones that were welcoming me and supported me and were there for me and all that stuff. Even looking back after Dave's parents passed away, they still had newspaper clippings of when I played baseball.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, wow, who would have thought, that, things like that were, even the case. And that just made me feel real special. And then,
yeah, yeah.
it's just those little things. And then, and then having kids of my own and knowing that I didn't want them to grow up the way that I grew up and them appreciating me for that reason. Those are the things that matter the most. That kind of makes up for the previous 25 years that I had to deal with them.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing, like, for me growing up, like, it's so weird to think that, like, you just thought you were better than everybody else. Like,
Yeah, right? Exactly. I know. I was just too good for everybody and I still think that, but
that's,
I will
like,
say this on a serious note, and I'm very happy that you guys have found your way out of that rut and have now changed your family dynamic for each of you, both of for you guys to reconnect and have a relationship. But more importantly, for the people that you affect down the line at this point, you've now changed that, you know, whatever you want to say, that continuum or whatever, of what it might continue to happen in your family. And maybe there's still an outlier in your family that's going to keep that going. Hopefully that will change at some point too. But at least
Mhm.
now it's not three people that are keeping that going.
how
It's,
did
you
you
know,
guys,
so
how did you guys connect? Like,
radio.
Yeah, he and I worked in
is
radio
it comes
together.
out somewhere like,
Yeah.
well, I'm like, we got drunk one night. And I
um,
respect
Yep,
that. I respect
yep,
that.
yep, yep, yep. No, we were both DJs at WLBR.
Yeah, no, I knew that. So like I knew you were both there, but like Did you guys know each other before then?
No,
No.
we usually cross shifts is what would happen, and we just kind of would either hang out a little bit longer and just kind of chat, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We both were really into football, you know what I mean? So we talk a lot of football and sports, and as we got to know each other more, we wanted to see if we could start our own. We wanted to see if we could start our own show at the station. Is honestly what
Yeah.
it boiled down to.
Sounds like a grinder ad.
Yeah. So
No,
know.
look, for what it's worth, like before, like him and I really like kind of rekindled some weird shit. I said it like you should do a podcast, like whether you remember that or not, like you have a gift at telling a story.
Yeah.
And I never listened to anything you guys did on WLBR, but like,
Well, that's
what
because
you're
we
doing
didn't.
That's because if you were listening, it was because you were hearing us say, and today's AccuWeather forecast is.
Yeah. Yep. Or here's some breaking news.
Yeah,
And then
Oh,
you play
Michael
the clip
Jackson
that-
just died. Okay.
Yeah, but we didn't even get to say it.
Yeah, I know.
It was always pre-recorded. Gordy'd always call us, "Here, record this quick."
Yep, exactly. But yeah, no, I remember you saying that, and but Troy and I always had this idea, and then years later, I approached Troy and be like, you know what? Why don't we put that idea into the podcast? Because
Yeah, but I'm gonna be honest. Since I just mentioned it, like I want royalties. Like we're family. This is how
now we're family. Okay, I get it.
how it works. It only matters when I get royalties.
Yeah, I
Doesn't-
see.
Doesn't he have some royalties too? Didn't you tell him about starting up his own business?
Yeah, I do believe I remember telling him about that, right? Yeah. I came to you in a dream.
Yeah.
I told you to throw the contract in the water, Mark.
Yeah. While you were molesting me.
Molestering. There's a new word. Molestering.
Yeah,
It's
but,
South Park. South Park. I didn't make it up.
Oh, there you go.
Ah,
There you
okay,
go. So, but yeah, it's been real fun, and man,
It's been cool to hear this from a third party perspective, to kind of I know a little bit about the area where you guys grow up, and I can get a pretty vivid picture of what was
AWOL
going
Road,
on.
buddy.
Yes, sir.
Where we grew up.
AWOL Road. What a fucking ironic name.
Yeah,
Where we-
right. Yeah,
Our
and I had,
parenting.
you know what's funny too is my sitter was right down the road from where you guys grew up too. So
Who?
my sitter,
No,
Adams,
I heard what you said. I'm
Adams.
curious. Huh?
Adams, as in John Adams.
No, I don't think it.
But the Adams, they were next door to us.
Yes.
This was down further though. This was down.
Yeah. Oh no, I know.
Okay.
Like by the big red barn.
They had a bunch of beagles. I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah,
that.
no,
They were
that's,
on top-
that's John Adams and the farm, the junkyard across the street from us.
Yeah,
I'm trying to
Crawls.
remember what they had a son, Bobby.
Yeah, but oh no, you were down a little further. That was
Right,
Michael's
that's what I'm saying.
friend at some point.
Yep.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the dad's name was though. I can't remember. Was it? He might have been.
That was near Mark and Chris Wise. You remember?
No. It was down. So remember your friend that you used to hang out with that lived at that fucking. You get dropped off. Oh God. It's you would get Chad or something. Yeah, I know where Bobby Adams lives. I know exactly.
They were on top of the hill. They had a bunch of beagles, and I guess he would train them for hunting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You guys,
Was he a good kisser?
huh? You got me.
He's just trying to dump his trauma onto you, Troy.
You talking about the beagles?
Yeah. 100%.
Well, that was a given.
Yeah, that's a really crazy little area back in there, isn't it? Sheesh.
Look, man,
Yeah.
we got family back there that was fucking arrested for murder, which
Oh
was
yeah.
one street down from Bobby Adams. Where they were marriage family. Do you remember that?
Who?
The McMinns.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude, like first off, like if you're gonna murder somebody, why keep them in your bathtub for like
Uh-huh.
weeks?
And
Like,
and his sister ended up marrying our cousin.
yeah, absolutely. But
Was
first of
that on
all, like,
AWOL? Was that on AWOL's road?
no,
Like,
no,
was
no,
that on
no,
AWOL?
that
No, it's
wasn't.
off of AWOL though.
It was off AWOL Road. Like by right down, if you pulled out of Bobby Adams' house, went two houses down and made a left, Silvertown. No, it wasn't
Oh,
Silvertown.
No, it wasn't.
Racehorse.
It wasn't Racehorse. It was.
Quartermaster. No.
It was down where all the Wernies lived.
Yeah.
And I wish I could.
I know.
It's
the
a dead
report.
end too. Like if you took it all the way to the end, it would take.
Highway, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. Huh.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
They buried it next to the highway. He's like, nobody will ever see him here.
Wow.
But he didn't even dig a hole, like lazy fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're gonna commit to it, like maybe he should have talked to the rest of the family.
Right. Right.
You can smash your head with a brick first.
That happened
I don't know
while
what
you
you're
guys
talking
were back
about.
there?
That's
I have
conjecture.
no idea what you're saying. I mean, me personally, I would probably find a dry creek bed and put them in.
We're gonna be FBI files.
Yeah.
This is what I would do.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of like the OJ book. If I did it, this is how I would do it.
I would do, not what you guys think I did.
Yeah, if I did it.
Yep.
They kept him in a fucking bathtub for like 2 weeks. That's gross.
Yeah.
Is it?
Man, we were exposed to a lot of weird stuff, weren't we?
Is it Hoover Drive?
Yeah, Hoover Drive.
Okay.
Oh yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, the good days.
So we can also find your book on Amazon Books, right?
It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. For sure, you can find it on the website, Shifting Realities 2024.
When's it going to be Audible? Because I don't like to read.
No, I already have it
And
done.
can I do the Audible version?
I got to figure out how to do it on Audible because I did it on AI. Like, first off, I said like 15 words and AI did my voice. It's pretty fucked up. By the way, like I already got your voice. I got you admitting to a lot of shit. And I'm going to need royalties.
And thank you for recording that statement on this podcast.
No comprende, señor.
I know not what I say.
Yeah, right. Oh my.
My older brother molested me when I was 6.
Yeah, that Mark and Michael White.
Whatever, they were the rich ones.
All right, so I guess we'll wrap things up here. We're 2 hours.
You
I
know,
know.
he's like, I'm so uncomfortable right now. You're not even phased. He's like, this is so terrible.
Hey, whatever. Hey, we'll sync to whatever level we got to get some ratings here. So
That's right. Yeah, we're not ashamed.
No.
So, shiftingrealities2024.com. You can go to that website there. Howie said you can get it on Amazon,
Kindle.
and then you said there's also a Facebook page, or
Yeah, I created a Facebook page. I don't know how to get to it.
okay.
I'll link
Just
it.
look it up.
Yeah, Erica did it for me. I have no idea. I can barely spell my name. You're lucky I wrote a book.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Well, yeah, being the dumb one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
So you were
look.
told, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, look, it's the whole thing is surreal to me. Getting a book, and I'll show you. Like this to me was super cool. Like it's one of the coolest.
Oh
things.
yeah.
Yeah, one of my really good friends is a pastor. He got his book, and he said it was the coolest feeling when he opened that box up and just saw his book sitting there published.
I'm gonna be honest. That guy's a liar.
Nah.
No, but like seriously, like it was like it's one of the things. Anybody can write a book. Anybody
Yeah.
can. Anybody can get a book published. And like I have a friend of mine who's a very like amazing writer, publisher, like not publisher but writer. She's had several books published, and she critiqued my book, and some of the criticism is harsh and hard to hear. Like, but there's a lot of grammatical errors in my book. I published it. I self-published it because I didn't know if my story was good enough to read, good enough to listen to. All I know is I wanted to write a book and I wanted to get it published. So I self published it. And there's a lot of errors. I mean, I'm not a writer. Like, I have a story to tell and I wanted to tell it. I didn't want to pay somebody to tell me I was good or bad because I didn't care. This book
Mhm.
doesn't change my life financially. So the rest is what you think of it. Like, do
Yeah.
you hear the story? Do you read the story? Do you relate with it? Of course, there's a lot of problems with it. I can tell you that. Will I get better with the second book? Hopefully. Probably not, but hopefully. But seriously, like I wrote the book and I put a lot of effort into it, a lot of passion into it.
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time because I work 70, 80 hours with my company, and the book took second seat, and
Yeah.
I fucked up so many times. Like I had a lot of pages written, a lot of chapters written, and then when I went back to edit them, I've I got to tell you, like I don't know who's ever done it, but I messed up and found myself editing chapters that weren't even in the book, like that I wrote and deleted, and
Oh
there's
wow.
oh my god, it's fucking terrible.
What
But
I would like to do in the near future is I would like to have another guest on here with us, and I want them to be a psychiatrist. I would love to see someone try to dissect everything that we have experienced and everything that we continue to experience. And I want Troy to be the mediator. Uh,
tell you, whoever you get, you
I'll
better get a
probably need a
psychiatrist.
therapist
Like,
afterwards.
they're never gonna be the same.
uh-huh.
You know that, Howie?
What's that?
I said I'll probably need a therapist after that then.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you
You're
will.
gonna you're gonna need a therapist anyway. Trust me.
Yeah, wait till you digest this story, even what we've already talked about, right?
I'll
Um,
be like when you read the book, if you start to try to figure out what's real and what's not real, what's dream and what's real, like
mhm.
it might make you question fucking like what you
Humanity.
just went through in the last hour.
Yeah, and wouldn't it be fair to say that you probably don't even know what's always real and what's not real?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
I
yeah.
definitely don't.
Your brain has a funny way of protecting yourself, you know,
Well,
and
Yeah.
like I'll tell you, like, and I just had this conversation with Richard when, and he said, "Tell Kazakhstan." I said, "What's up?"
uh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Tell him I said hello from what was that hotel name?
the Oyo.
Oh, the Oyo. Yeah, yeah. A hotel I
Look,
stayed in Oregon, which was quite the. I don't even. If I looked under the bed, I probably would have found a dead body. Let's put it that
first
way.
off, like we were like, we'll pay for a hotel. Like, and he's like, no, no, this one was under fucking $60. First off,
I'm like, no big deal.
yeah,
I've
yeah, we
stayed in
don't we
from
don't
here.
stay in shit less than $200 because of that reason.
Uh huh.
Oh man.
No, I look, the whole thing is there's so many interpretations. Like I would love to have somebody psychoanalyze.
Hmm.
They'll never be the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say start with the childhood adverse experiences. You know, or the adverse childhood experiences, I should say. You know, let them get an ACEs score on us. First of all, that it would be through the roof of our childhood trauma, and then going from there. I mean, yeah, good luck, and they probably want to commit us when the show is over.
Yeah, I think it'll be a field day for somebody who's especially maybe somebody's just getting into it and just trying to
Mm,
get a feel for it. I think that'd be a
yeah,
fun for you
there
Oh
we
because
yeah,
go. I might
definitely.
have
Def-
some hookups for that one. I'll have to
yeah,
see if I can dig
definitely a
somebody
good.
up to.
You guys would definitely be a good case study for a rookie.
Yeah.
man, hey, Troy, don't think I won't dig down into your fucking past life.
Go
Like,
for it.
don't think I won't try to find out what little skeletons you got hidden.
Oh, I got
Who,
so
me
many.
or Troy?
Troy, no, I know your skeleton.
Yeah,
By the way,
right.
I'll tell the story. I'll tell the story of when we were kids.
Oh no.
Like we tried fucking we.
Do what?
We ran fishing string from his bedroom window, and we fucking hung a blow up skeleton on his window. And look, that this is creative as shit. We hung a stick that when you pull one end, it would knock on his window. When he looked out, we pulled the skeleton up. Oh my god, I got in so much trouble for that one.
Who were you doing that to?
Good old Howie.
Oh,
Me.
you doing it to you, and you were falling
Yeah.
for
Well, I mean, yeah.
it. Who was this? You and Scott?
No, that was me and Michael.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Good stuff. Well, with that being said,
yeah,
we'll
Get
close it
that
off
back.
here. But man, it's been fun, and I think we probably have a few more days of talking in left in this um, childhood journey, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Whatever.
again, yeah, I would say definitely get a hold of Mark's book, Shifting Realities, uh, and really, I think it'll throw you for a loop. Don't try to solve what he's trying to think. Like you said, it's going to drive you insane to try to figure it out because I don't think we've figured it out yet. And I think it's a Netflix special waiting to happen, Mark.
is it the next American Horror Story?
Yeah.
Look,
Yes.
I'll tell you on a serious note, there's a lot of writing flaws. I'm not a writer.
Hmm.
I've had criticism from a friend of mine who's an amazing writer,
Uh-huh.
and she let me know like where my deficiencies are. The story tells a great story. It speaks well, but there it's my first book, and
Yeah.
I think the story itself is worth entertaining, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of relating that I think people that have been through a lot of childhood trauma can experience, and
Mhm.
the night terrors, if you experience them, it's hard to overcome, and
It's
I
yeah,
hope.
it's not a fun experience for sure.
Yeah, like I don't think I'll ever get rid of them. So I
Mhm.
hope that somebody can read them and relate and at least know that some other asshole out there can relate with them.
Yeah, and again, you're downplaying your writing experiences and such, but in all reality, this is in your words and in
Yeah.
how you are as a person and who you are. And hey, you come with the
Good
flaws
point.
too, just like everybody else does. So to me, that just makes it more genuine and more authentic.
Agreed.
And you should welcome that. So don't worry
It's
about what people say
it's
about
in your
your
words,
grammar.
your point
Yeah.
of it's your point of your perspective and your um, thoughts, and it's basically you telling the story. So why wouldn't it come from the way you would say it?
Yeah,
You know.
to me, it
Yeah.
just makes it more genuine, right?
More than anything, I would love to know if your people read the book, give honest criticism. Like,
Mhm.
don't be an asshole. It hurts my feelings.
Hmm.
No, but I like honestly, if it's terrible, just say, look, this was terrible. Like
Yeah.
I want to hear because the second book was actually done before the first book was fully completed.
Hmm.
So releasing the second book is more about how the first book is received. If the first book is perceived as garbage, why release a second book? other than fucking indict myself. It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
if you want to hear the second book, you better lie to me and tell me it was good. I'm not playing around.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Yeah. So, but no,
um,
hey, it was honestly great talking to you, Mark,
yep.
and I hope that we can talk about this some more going down the road.
Of course, lie to the psychiatrist. We're in.
Yep. And just for the record, I am never going to go hiking or camping with you in the Appalachian Mountains. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just
you
let
got
it at that.
to do it twice.
Oh my gosh. So there we
All
go. I
right,
just ended I just
guys, I
ended the
appreciate
recording,
you.
but um yeah. Hold on a second. It's showing that it's still uploading for you, Mark. So
I've